Welcome to our Health and Wellness 360. I'm here with Rob Morrow, and we're here at part 3, where we're going to talk about priorities. And if you've missed, this is a 4-part series that we've put together. And what you want to do, we talked about awareness in our first part, and the second part was a reality check. And now we're going to start to get into some meat and things that we can really start to look towards the future. So we've looked towards the past and the present in the last 2 parts, and now we're going to get to looking towards the future. So when we think of priorities, Rob, what does that mean?
Well, first of all, great to be back with you.
Yeah, thank you.
And you, the audience. This has been a real pleasure, and we're looking forward to this section and as we have the other ones. Well, when I think of priorities, and we talk about priorities, maybe it's just a big word for what's important. And so as we talked about awareness, increased people's awareness, and understood the reality and depths of the pandemic and its effect on all of us, it seemed like it was now really time to ask a question, perhaps to personalize this a bit, and say, how has this really changed, my life specifically, and how has it changed the way I think about what's important? So I think that's really what I would encourage you to think about when you think about how you might want to revisit and then reset your priorities. Not everyone will change priorities, but we've talked actively about these major areas of our lives. Our physical life, our emotional life, our professional life, our financial life, and our social life and relationships. And if you kind of take that as a proxy for revisiting your priorities, it's probably very unlikely to me, given how devastating this pandemic has been and how much displacement that's gone on, that you would, or I know mine have changed, but if I said, what's the most important series of things to me to think about, what would that list have looked like on January of 2020? And how would that have changed January 2021? And I think for me, the list looks different. I would think for you, the list might look different. And the most important thing to do is to, at this point, to say, let's not be too casual about this. Let's take the time to, as Donovan suggests, get your pen out, get your paper out, how you make notes, and let's see if we can really put a little bit of discipline around how we think about what's changed, because that is going to lay the foundation for how we go about affecting change.
Yeah.
So that's what priorities are.
Excellent. I think one of the things is, it was interesting, when we're going through this process and we're talking about this, we have to look internally into the things that we do when we're working with clients and us personally. And for me and for my wife Jackie, one of the priorities that I definitely would say has pivoted through 2020 and going into 2021 is our kids' education. For all the parents out there that have kids that are going to school and especially my kids' ages that are ranged between 5 and 12, they're in a state where they've been doing most of their education remotely through Zoom or different, or we have become the teachers for their educations and their extended homework that they're getting. And so for us, the shift of energy and resources has pivoted of our own time, getting tutors and other resources that we can provide has jumped for sure on the priority list. When it comes to you, Rob, what kind of things have shifted for you?
Well, I think one of the things that shifted for me is, in my own, personal life, which is, being much more confined to home, how I go about trying to take care of myself physically. I used to come to see you every day.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't happen, so I'm really having to, think about how do I get my walking in, how do I get my exercise in,
Yeah.
And I'm having to treat it as a priority. It used to be kind of an afterthought. Now it's a priority. The other priority I see through the lens of my clients around the country is there's so much dislocation about the way people are working. So they are having to change their priorities of, do they have a home office or don't they have a home office? How are they actually, they weren't thinking about that.
Yes.
January of last year, they were getting in a car and driving to work.
Yes.
Now it's going to be a year later and they've been at home for a year and they're now trying to figure out, so the way they talk about work now and how to effectively work in their job is quite a bit different. And so their priorities have changed. In some cases, I've had people that have lost their job. So what we talked about in my consulting business with them a year ago was about advancement and how to develop a new strategy and how to put the new big plan in place. And now the big plan in place is, how do I get a new job?
Yes.
Well, that's what I would call a different priority, a different sense of urgency. There are lots of different words for this, but they all bring us to the same place, which is, how has the pandemic changed things around us? How does it influence the important things in our life? What has changed from a year ago? And we really encourage you to take the time to think about that carefully. I think it's easy to fly at 25,000 feet and not get specific. Just say, well, I would encourage you to push yourself a little bit and not say, well, things just aren't normal. It's true they're not normal, but in what way in your life are they not normal? Mm-hmm. So I think if we can get a little bit deeper and get a small list going of things that we want to treat differently next year, then that'll position us very nicely as we move into our next segment, which is going to be trying to provide you with some actual tools once you've got your priorities reset. So a very rich subject, a very timely subject, and we're very excited about trying to share our thoughts with you and look forward to helping you navigate that going forward.
Excellent.